The story begins with a nine-tailed fox spirit who had lived for centuries in the mountains. For a long time, she once considered joining the human world. However, after watching her friend transform into a human and marry a man, only to live a life filled with sadness and disappointment, she changed her mind. Seeing that her friend never found true happiness and was always surrounded by sorrow, the fox decided it was better not to become human at all. Instead, she chose to live as she was. On the outside, she could appear like an ordinary woman, but inside she remained a fox spirit with powerful, supernatural abilities. At the same time, we meet a young man named Seol, who is playing soccer with his teammates while an international evaluation committee watches the match to judge the players' skills. During the game, Seol successfully scores a goal. Surprisingly, instead of praising him, the coach punishes him. The reason is simple. The goal was supposed to be scored by Wuok, a talented player from a wealthy family who had already been chosen as a future member of the national youth team. Because of this favoritism, Seol is treated unfairly. The next day, we see Mr. Lee, a powerful businessman, extremely angry as he heads to an important meeting about a massive reconstruction project. 3 companies are competing for the contract, including his own. Although his company has been receiving heavy criticism, Mr. Lee is determined to win the project and secure the enormous amount of money attached to it. The meeting begins normally, but suddenly something unbelievable happens. A mysterious girl appears on the large screen in front of everyone, leaving the entire room stunned. With a simple movement of her fingers, she magically silences everyone present. Calmly, she tells them to listen to her. Then she stands up and reveals her 9 foxtails, shocking everyone even more. She announces that everyone must vote for Team Gyumsu, the company led by Mr. Lee. After controlling the situation, she approaches Mr. Lee and tells him to follow her. Confused and frightened, he has no choice but to obey. Meanwhile, Seol returns home feeling deeply disappointed after the unfair treatment he received. When he arrives, he sees his grandmother struggling to carry heavy bags. He quickly rushes to help her. While they talk, he tells her that he scored a goal during the match. His grandmother becomes extremely proud and happy. She then asks whether the team forgave the monthly fee they used to charge him. Not wanting to worry her, Seol lies and tells her that the team has given him a free scholarship. His grandmother becomes even happier, believing that her grandson's talent has finally been recognized. In reality, Seol secretly begins working as a food delivery driver to pay the team's fees himself because he does not want to burden his sick grandmother again. Later, he goes back to the soccer field where he finds Wuok practicing alone with the ball. The two of them train together for a while before heading to a restaurant to eat. During their meal, Wuok asks Seol why he works so hard instead of focusing only on training. Seol honestly explains that he does not have much money and that his grandmother is sick. Then he adds something bitter. Even though Wuok already lives a better life than him and has even been called to join the national team, he still acts arrogant. Hearing these words makes Wuok feel ashamed, and he remains silent. On the other side of the story, Mr. Lee meets the mysterious Foxwoman. She calmly tells him that the thing he wanted most has already been achieved. He has won the project. Curious and suspicious, Mr. Lee asks if she can show him more of her powers. She smiles and asks him if he is interested in the secrets of a 9-tailed fox. Mr. Lee replies that before hiring her, he needs to know exactly what she is capable of doing. The Foxwoman suddenly begins tapping her hands on the table. In the next moment, Mr. Lee finds himself standing in a terrifying mountainous place surrounded by darkness. The scene feels so real that he begins screaming in fear. The Foxwoman appears beside him and calmly explains that if he pays her money, he can ask her to do anything for him. However, whether she fulfills his wishes depends entirely on her own decision. She makes it clear that she alone decides everything, including how much money she wants. She then mocks him, calling him a weak human. Finally, she reveals one of her most important conditions. She absolutely hates doing good deeds and wants to stay far away from anything kind or noble. She has no desire to become human or weaken her spiritual powers. After explaining this, she tells Mr. Lee to leave and go celebrate the victory of his company with his team. The next day, the Foxwoman walks into a shop where she notices a young girl working there. She begins complimenting the girl warmly, praising her appearance and friendliness. Then, out of nowhere, she asks, "Can you come with me? Can we be friends just for today?" The girl is surprised and confused by the strange request, so she politely refuses, but the Foxwoman simply moves two of her fingers. Suddenly, the girl feels an irresistible pull and, without understanding why, she agrees to go with her. The two of them begin shopping together and later sit down to eat. During their conversation, the girl finally asks the question that has been bothering her. "How is it possible that you're a fox, living among ordinary humans?" The Foxwoman then calmly begins explaining everything about herself and her mysterious existence. Meanwhile, Seol and Wuok are at a sports shoe store. Wuok wants to help his friend by buying him new soccer shoes, but Seol becomes angry. He feels insulted and snaps back, saying, "Do you think I'm some kind of beggar?" With that, he storms out of the store. At the same time, the Foxwoman and her new companion leave the shop. Suddenly, a young man running nearby trips and falls. Right in front of them, the Foxwoman asks him if he is hurt. Startled, Seol quickly stands up. The Foxwoman glances at the books he is carrying and tells him, "Stop reading so many books and exercise more." Seol and his friend walk away, leaving the two women behind. But as the Foxwoman watches them, she suddenly sees a vision of the future. One of those two boys will become a famous and wealthy soccer player. Her new friend becomes curious and asks, "Which one of them will become famous?" The Foxwoman points toward one of them and says, "That one will become famous and rich. He might even become my future client." The girl then eagerly asks, "What about me? Tell me what I'll become." But the Foxwoman coldly replies, "You have no money, so you cannot become my client." The girl tries to bargain playfully and says, "At least give me a discount and tell me my future." The Foxwoman becomes irritated and pushes the girl away dismissively. As she stands there alone, the lights suddenly go out. In the darkness, she sees the old man who once taught her. He angrily shouts at her, asking why she is interfering in the human world. The two begin arguing loudly. She defends herself, saying she only benefits from humans by earning money from them. But the old man accuses her of deception and manipulation. Their argument grows more intense until she finally storms away in anger. Elsewhere, Mr. Lee and his team celebrate their victory after winning the project. Meanwhile, Seol and Wuok continue their soccer training. Suddenly, the ball flies out of the field and hits the Foxwoman on the head. She becomes startled, and when she looks up, she sees Seol standing there. In frustration, she pops the soccer ball. Seol becomes furious, and the two begin arguing loudly. During the argument, she tells him, "You're a fool. Your friend will become a famous and wealthy soccer player." However, he refuses to believe anything she says. Later that night, Mr. Lee, who is heavily drunk, suddenly crashes his car into Wuok and then flees the scene. Seol quickly rushes his injured friend to the hospital. Afterward, Seol goes to the police station and explains exactly what happened. But suddenly another man arrives and falsely confesses to the crime, claiming that he was the one driving the car. Seol is shocked. He immediately shouts that the man is lying and insists that he is not the one who hit his friend. Meanwhile, Mr. Lee learns from his assistant that the man he hired refused to confess to the crime. Mr. Lee becomes extremely anxious and desperate. As a last resort, he burns the contact card of the Foxwoman. Soon she appears before him and calmly asks, "What do you want me to do?" Mr. Lee begs her to solve a simple but urgent problem for him. She replies that he must double the payment. Desperate, he immediately agrees. The Foxwoman then goes to the hospital. While she is there, Seol arrives and asks why she came to the hospital. She crosses her two fingers to use her powers, but accidentally makes a mistake. Instead of manipulating the correct fate, she switches the destinies of the two boys. Suddenly, the future that belonged to Wuok transfers to Seol, meaning Seol will now become the famous soccer star. The Foxwoman instantly realizes something has gone terribly wrong. Her powers begin weakening rapidly. She remembers the warning words of the old man who taught her. Overwhelmed, she collapses to the ground. Confused and worried, Seol catches her as she falls, staring in shock as her foxtails begin to appear behind her. After losing much of her spiritual power, the Foxwoman goes to visit the old man who once taught her. She explains to him that a large part of her spiritual energy has disappeared. The old man immediately realizes what happened and tells her that she has made a serious mistake. By carelessly interfering with fate, she accidentally switched the destinies of two people, and because of that mistake, another person has died. Hearing this, the Foxwoman becomes deeply shocked and frightened. Soon we learn that the person who died was the man who had falsely confessed to the crime, the same man who had been hired to take the blame for Mr. Lee, who was the real killer. The next day, Seol is standing at a bus stop waiting for transportation. Suddenly, the Foxwoman appears in front of him. Seol becomes anxious because he has just missed his bus. Calmly, she offers to take him home herself. At first, he refuses, unsure of her strange abilities, but she convinces him and grabs his hand. In the next moment, she flies through the air at incredible speed, passing over countless buildings and entire cities until she brings him directly to his house. Amazed, Seol asks if she can travel anywhere in the world like that. She casually replies that there are many paths she can take and that moving like this is very easy for her. Out of curiosity, Seol takes her hand and jokingly says it must be a blessed hand. Embarrassed, she quickly pulls it away. Then she asks him to do something important for her. She wants him to help catch the man who ran over his friend with the car. She tells him that if he succeeds, she will make his dream come true. Meanwhile, Mr. Lee is being interrogated by detectives who are trying to prove his guilt. In desperation, he attempts to use the Foxwoman's magical wish card, but it no longer works. When he leaves the building, he finds a large crowd of reporters waiting outside. He quickly gets into his car and calls his father for help, but the call is abruptly cut off. Suddenly, the Foxwoman appears beside his car. She calmly tells him that their deal is over. She explains that he committed the terrible crime of killing someone, and because of that, she almost lost all of her spiritual power. Mr. Lee desperately tries to apologize and beg for forgiveness, but the Foxwoman crosses her fingers and uses her powers to force him to confess the truth. She takes back the wish card from him. Under the influence of her power, Mr. Lee stumbles out of the car and publicly confesses to the entire crime in front of the reporters. As a result, he is immediately arrested and taken to prison. Elsewhere, Seol is training alone on the soccer field. Exhausted, he eventually sits down to rest. Suddenly, the Foxwoman appears again, this time carrying a travel bag. She thanks him for helping expose the criminal responsible for the accident. Curious, Seol asks her what her name is. Instead of answering directly, she tells him to guess. Half-jokingly, he asks if her name is something like Devil. The Foxwoman laughs at the suggestion. Then she finally reveals the truth. She is a nine-tailed fox spirit. Seol suddenly remembers the moment when her tails appeared before. She explains that she never wanted to become human because doing so would weaken her spiritual power. Before leaving, she hands him the wish card, telling him he can use it to fulfill his dream of becoming a famous soccer player. She also shows him how to activate the card. She tells him that she will disappear for a while but promises to return on the day he becomes wealthy. When Seol asks her name again, she finally tells him that her name is Yunho. After saying this, she quietly leaves. Not long after, a woman approaches Seol and introduces herself as his new sports agent. She informs him that he has been selected as one of the young players called to join the national team. Seol is completely shocked and confused by this sudden turn of events. The agent then explains that he has taken Wuok's position because Wuok is injured and cannot play. Seol later visits his friend Wuok to say goodbye. After their emotional farewell, Seol leaves the country to begin his new journey, stepping closer to the destiny that now awaits him. 9 years later, we see Yunho relaxing peacefully on a beautiful beach. She dreams of buying a large island in that area so she can live there freely. However, after checking her situation, she realizes she doesn't have enough money to purchase it. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Seol has become a massive football star. His team has grown incredibly powerful and nearly unstoppable. They celebrate another victory with great excitement, knowing that only 5 matches remain before they can become champions once again. Seol has just signed a new 5-year contract with his club, which has now become the strongest team in the entire Premier League. His success dominates the news everywhere. Every sports channel and media outlet is talking about him. When Yunho sees the news, she becomes happy and proud. As she walks through the city, she notices a store displaying merchandise with Seol's image everywhere. His posters and advertisements are placed all around the shop. She even sees groups of female fans fighting over items with his name printed on them. Curious, she asks how much money Seol earns. The fans excitedly explain that he earns an enormous amount and promotes many big companies through advertisements. They even show her a book written by Seol, which surprises her greatly. Soon after, we see Seol arriving at the airport, where huge crowds rush toward him asking for autographs. Among them stands Yunho, quietly waiting and hoping that he will recognize her. But Seol doesn't recognize her at all. Instead, he casually asks if she also wants an autograph. Confused and surprised, she nods, and he signs on the back of her clothes. While he isn't paying attention, Yunho secretly moves her 2 fingers. His bag suddenly falls open, and she carefully slips the wish card into his book before he notices anything. Seol remains confused about what just happened. Meanwhile, Wuok's life has not improved at all. He goes to his coach and asks to be allowed back into the team, but the coach sadly tells him that there is no available position for him anymore. Disappointed and heartbroken, Wuok leaves. Shortly afterward, Seol sends him a message asking to meet since he has returned to the country. While Seol waits for his friend, Wuok continues working his job as a food delivery driver. The next day, Yunho visits a furniture store and begins ordering many expensive household items. The store workers warn her that everything she wants costs a lot of money, but she confidently replies that earning a lot of money is easy for her. While looking around, she notices that the chairs in the shop are not good enough, so she decides to build one herself. She goes to a crafts workshop and asks if she can make her own chair. The worker agrees. Using her supernatural powers, Yunho begins crafting the chair. After finishing, she realizes she still doesn't have the money she wants, so she decides to visit Seol at his house. At that moment, Seol is taking a shower when she suddenly appears inside his home. Startled and confused, he begins shouting in shock. Yunho tries to calm him down and explain everything. Slowly, Seol begins remembering who she is. Soon they are talking comfortably again. Yunho congratulates him on his incredible success and hands him the wish card, telling him that she can grant whatever he desires because he has now become her client. Seol thinks for a moment and says there is nothing else he wishes for. Yunho suggests that she could heal his parents, but Seol quietly tells her that his parents died long ago and that he grew up with his grandmother instead. She then offers to heal his grandmother, but he sadly reveals that his grandmother has also passed away. Hearing this, Yunho simply tells him that one day he might still need her help, then she leaves. Later, Seol orders some food. Unexpectedly, the delivery is brought by Wuok, his old friend. The two sit together and begin talking. Seol asks Wuok how life has been treating him. Wuok honestly explains that nothing has improved for him. He has even started losing hope in soccer completely. Seol asks if he still believes in his dreams. But as Wuok speaks, Seol begins imagining something painful. He imagines that his friend was the one who should have taken his place, living the life of fame and wealth, while he himself returns to the poverty and hardship he once suffered. The thought leaves Seol deeply troubled, wondering whether the destiny he is living truly belongs to him or to someone else. When Seol asks his friend Wuok about his dream, Wuok does not give a direct answer. Instead, he simply congratulates Seol on the new contract he recently signed and then quietly leaves. Later, Seol goes out for a run. While running, he receives a phone call from the team manager, who urgently informs him that his football club has been sanctioned by UEFA. Because of this punishment, the team will be forced to compete in the second division for 1 year. She also explains that Seol's contract clearly states that he must continue playing with the team even if they are relegated, and the contract will still last for 5 years, meaning nothing can be changed now. She urges him to leave Korea immediately so they can travel and resolve the issue as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, Wuok visits the grave of Seol's grandmother. He assumes Seol will not come today because he must be extremely busy. However, to his surprise, Seol suddenly appears at the grave. The two friends sit together quietly for a moment. Wuok then tells Seol that he only wants their friendship, and he does not need any help from him. As Seol prepares to leave, the wish card that Yunho gave him accidentally falls to the ground. Wuok picks it up and hands it back to him. At that moment, Seol realizes that this might be the right time to finally use the card. He burns the card, and Yunho immediately appears before them. She asks calmly, "What is your wish?" Seol answers without hesitation. His wish is for Woo-seong's dream to come true. Yunho then travels to the UEFA football authorities to begin making the wish happen. Afterward, Seol reveals the truth to Woo-seong. The strange events that happened 9 years ago were all caused by Yunho, the nine-tailed fox. While the two friends are still talking, Seol suddenly receives a shocking notification. 100 million won has been withdrawn from his bank account several times. Moments later, he receives another call informing him that his transfer to the club he wanted has already been completed and that everything has been finalized. Both of them are shocked because it means Woo-seong's dream has already started coming true. Soon after, Woo-seong leaves for the airport to travel to the United Kingdom, but Seol runs after him and tells him that he still hopes one day to play for the national team, just like Woo-seong will. Then, Yunho appears again. The two friends tell her about Woo-seong's new dream. However, Yunho explains that granting such a wish requires a very large amount of money, and Woo-seong cannot afford it. Without hesitation, Seol says he will pay the price himself and that he is even willing to exchange his own destiny with Woo-seong's so that Woo-seong can achieve the dream instead. Yunho agrees. Soon afterward, while Seol is sitting on an airplane, the aircraft suddenly begins shaking violently. At the exact same moment, Woo-seong is inside his home when the ground suddenly trembles like an earthquake. In that instant, their lives completely switch. Seol's successful life and Woo-seong's struggling life are exchanged. When Seol wakes up, he finds himself living inside Woo-seong's house and life. He is confused and shocked. Just then, Yunho appears and calmly tells him that she only fulfilled the wish he requested. Meanwhile, Woo-seong wakes up on the airplane, now living Seol's life. He is informed that his name is famous throughout Korea and the entire world. Back in Woo-seong's old neighborhood, Seol stands in confusion inside the poor house that now belongs to him. Soon, Woo-seong's friends arrive, but now they treat Seol as if he is Woo-seong because he is living Woo-seong's life. They even call him Seol instead of Woo-seong. They tell him he must apologize to the coach, and before he can understand what is happening, they force him out of the house and take him along with them. Meanwhile, Yunho meets a wealthy old man named Chairman Kim. For many years, Chairman Kim had repeatedly asked Yunho to grant his wish for eternal life, but this time he says he did not call her to grant his wish. Instead, he wanted to discuss something else. At the same time, Seol, still confused about his new life, rides in a car with Woo-seong's friends. They head somewhere together. Seol asks if they are members of the national team because he does not recognize them. He also wonders why he is currently in London. His friends look at him strangely and laugh, thinking he must be joking or has lost his memory. They keep telling him he should simply apologize to the coach. Meanwhile, Chairman Kim asks Yunho about a sword that used to be displayed in his house, a sword she always seemed interested in. Recently, the sword mysteriously disappeared. Yunho then tells him the story behind the sword. Thousands of years ago, she had a sister who was not related to her by blood, but whom she loved like family. One day, that sister fell deeply in love with a human man. Because of that love, she transformed herself into a human. Unfortunately, the man she loved treated her terribly and forced her to live in poverty and suffering. Her life became so miserable that she almost died. Yunho eventually rescued her. One day, Yunho visited her sister, whose name was Gyum, and gave her a sword. She told her that if she killed the man she loved with that sword, she would be able to return to being a fox spirit again. But Gyum refused. She begged Yunho never to show her face again. Yunho then reveals something shocking to Chairman Kim. That sword is one of the very few things capable of killing her. Seol's friends bring him to Coach Yong, Gil, whose face is bruised and injured. Seol looks at him in confusion and asks, "Where is Coach Gonzalez, the coach of the national team?" But Yong-gil tells him that it is he who deserves an apology, not Coach Gonzalez. When Seol refuses to apologize, Yong-gil angrily threatens him, saying that he will remove him from the team and even ban him from football completely. However, Seol does not take the threat seriously. He calmly replies, "Then go ahead and remove me." After saying that, Seol storms out, shouting at his friends and insisting that he is the famous Kang Seol, but his friends remain confused and shocked by his strange behavior. Meanwhile, Yunho and Chairman Kim are reviewing the CCTV footage in order to discover who stole the sword. Unfortunately, they are informed that all the cameras were damaged and not working. Yunho then forces the security guard to speak, demanding to know if he saw anything suspicious. The guard nervously says that he remembers seeing a man, but he cannot recall any details. Moments later, he collapses. From this, Yunho realizes something important. A human must have stolen the sword, and only a very small number of humans would be capable of doing such a thing. At that moment, we see the wealthy businessman who has just been released from prison. As soon as he walks out, someone greets him. He suddenly recalls a memory from 2 years earlier, when he was still in prison. At that time, other prisoners were beating him severely. But suddenly, a mysterious man appeared, sometimes visible, sometimes hidden, possessing strange and powerful abilities. The mysterious man drove away the attackers and helped him outside. He explained that he was actually a human, but he had learned special tricks that gave him extraordinary power. Then he handed the prisoner a magical paper talisman. The talisman entered the man's body, and the mysterious stranger told him that when he was released from prison, they would work together. Their mission would be to hunt the nine-tailed fox. Meanwhile, Seol tries to return to the hotel where he used to stay, but when he enters the password, it does not work. The staff inform him that he does not live there anymore. He then attempts to enter the room he thought was his, but another woman is now staying there. Security quickly arrives and forcefully removes him from the building. Elsewhere, the mysterious man takes the newly released businessman to a temple, where he plans to perform a ritual to hunt the fox. He begins casting a spell and summons a demonic dog spirit. He feeds the creature meat and then takes the sword from the businessman's hands. The man explains that the dog must smell the blood of the fox in order to track her. Then he commands the demonic dog, "Go find the fox." The supernatural dog immediately begins following the scent of blood. Meanwhile, security officers take Seol to the police station. At that moment, Yunho arrives there carrying the picture of the person who stole the sword. She asks the police officers to find that man immediately. While she is there, she suddenly notices Seol. When Seol angrily asks what she has done to his life, Yunho explains the truth. She switched his destiny with Wuok's. In order to place Wuok on the national team, she gave Seol the lowlife of an unknown neighborhood player. Seol begs her to return everything to the way it was before. But Yunho tells him that it is impossible because he does not have the money required to reverse the wish. However, there is one possible solution. If Wuok himself requests that their lives be switched back, then she could change their destinies again. But she warns Seol that Wuok is currently living the life he always dreamed of, and it is very unlikely that he would give it up. Soon after, Seol's former coach arrives and manages to release him from the police station. The coach asks him why he has changed so much. Then he tells Seol that if the team wins the 3rd Division championship, they will be promoted again. Hearing this makes Seol furious and emotional. He begins crying and walks away because he cannot accept living this life. Later, Wuok calls him excitedly and tells him that he is now in London playing in the Premier League. Wuok happily suggests that they meet. But Seol tells him the shocking truth, that their lives have been switched and that he is now living Wuok's old life. He tells Wuok that the only way to fix everything is for him to make a wish to reverse their destinies. At that moment, Wuok's father calls him. Wuok ends the conversation with Seol and answers his father's call. His father soon arrives and asks him if he is happy. Wuok smiles and replies that he has never been happier. Then he calls Seol again and tells him something unexpected. He wants to live this life for just 1 month, and after that, he will return everything. Before Seol can respond, Wuok hangs up the phone. Seol sits alone on a bus, crying silently while the passengers around him watch in confusion, wondering what could have caused such deep sorrow. After everything that happened, Seol returns home. He grabs his passport and quickly rushes to the airport, trying to buy a ticket to London. However, the airport staff inform him that his passport has expired, so he cannot travel. At that moment, Yunho appears beside him. She advises him not to trust people so easily or make hasty decisions again. She also tells him that when he wakes up the next morning, his life will begin to return to normal. But Seol replies firmly that he will never make another wish again, even if his entire life depends on it. As he leaves the airport, he notices a large cargo truck parked nearby. Suddenly, it strangely transforms into a taxi. Curious, Seol gets into the vehicle. When he looks inside, he realizes the driver is the mysterious Sorcerer. When he glances into the back seat, he notices the car is filled with strange equipment. Confused, Seol asks if it really is a taxi. The driver calmly replies, "Yes, it is a taxi, and it will take you exactly where you need to go." Then the man begins driving. Soon after, the sorcerer ties Seol's hands and takes him to a hidden place where he performs his magic rituals. Waiting there is the wealthy businessman who had recently been released from prison, now working under the sorcerer's orders. Meanwhile, Yunho is at home when the atmosphere suddenly changes. The sky darkens, thunder strikes, and the ground trembles slightly. She immediately senses that something is wrong. Back at the ritual site, the sorcerer and the businessman search Seol's pockets, looking for Yunho's business card, the one used to grant wishes. But they cannot find it, because Wuok still has the card. The sorcerer then directly asks Seol, "I'm looking for the fox's business card, the one that grants wishes. Where is it?" Seol tells him he doesn't have it, but claims he can lead them to the fox if they free his hands. The sorcerer hesitates, but asks if he can really bring them to her without the card. Seol then takes a phone and calls Wuok. At that moment, Wuok is out shopping with his father, buying him things he likes. When Seol calls, Wuok rejects the call. When the kidnappers realize this, they say angrily that they do not want the fox to grant their wishes. They want to kill her. Hearing this, Seol suddenly remembers something important. The businessman working with the sorcerer is the same man who once ran over Wuok with a car. While Seol is thinking about this, Wuok finally calls him back. Wuok begs him, saying, "Please, just give me this 1 month." But Seol responds, "El will take everything back." He then turns to the kidnappers and tells them something surprising. "El don't even like that fox. But killing her is not something I can help you with." Angered by his refusal, the men begin beating Seol violently. At that moment, Yunho senses her powers weakening. She realizes something terrible is happening and immediately rushes to the location. When she arrives, she sees Seol lying on the ground, bleeding after being beaten. Standing above him, she suddenly notices the sorcerer and the businessman behind her. They tell her that she has come to the place where she will die. When Yunho looks closely at the sorcerer's face, she recognizes him. "You're Jangdo Cheol, aren't you?" she says. She quickly realizes that she has walked directly into a trap and cannot escape. The sorcerer binds her and then takes out the sword. He prepares to stab her with it. But when he strikes, the sword only pierces a statue. Yunho suddenly appears elsewhere and reveals that she had been tracking him all along. She had already discovered his address and personal information and had carefully planned everything. She tells the sorcerer that a terrible death awaits him and then turns to the businessman and warns him that she will deal with him later as well. Suddenly, heavy rain begins to fall. Yunho is badly injured and weakened. The two men flee the scene. A large vehicle passes nearby, and inside sits a mysterious man who seems to know the sorcerer, smiling quietly as he watches everything. Afterward, Yunho uses the remaining strength of her powers to heal Seol's wounds and wake him up. She tells him that she ended up in this dangerous situation because of him and that he should stand up so she can take him home. But suddenly her power begins fading again. The sword falls from her hands, and the light of her spiritual power begins to crack and shatter. She collapses to the ground, and Seol catches her before she falls. At that moment, we see a memory from the past. Long ago, an elderly woman once came to Yunho and asked her to grant her wish. But Yunho told the woman that she had only come to say goodbye because the woman would die that day. She also declared firmly that she would never become human, no matter what. Back in the present, Yunho wakes up inside Seol's house. She tries to use her powers, but realizes that the core of her spiritual energy has shattered. She screams in frustration and tells Seol, You're the reason I became human." Meanwhile, the sorcerer leaves the house where he had been staying with the businessman. As they leave, the sorcerer warns him that they must change locations every day, because if the fox discovers where they are staying, it will be dangerous for them. Seol prepares some coffee for Yunho, and the two of them sit together quietly. He asks her to explain everything that has happened. Yunho tells him the truth. She became a human because she saved his life. However, she never wanted to become human. To her, human life is painful. Humans grow old and eventually they die without truly accomplishing anything meaningful. Seol listens and then asks, "I'll understand that, but when will I get my life back? Yesterday you told me that when I wake up this morning everything would return to normal. Now it's morning and nothing has changed." Yunho laughs slightly and replies, "I'm human now. How could I possibly have the power to change anything back?" Seol refuses to accept this answer. "That's impossible," he says. "Am I supposed to live like this forever? Get your powers back. This can't be the solution." Still searching for answers, Yunho takes him to the temple where the old master used to stay. But they are told that the old man left during the night and no one knows where he went. Before leaving, the monks give Yunho a book that the old man said should be delivered to her. When she opens the book, an ID card falls out. The card has her photograph on it and says her name is OK Sun. The monks explain that the old man created this identity for her so she could live safely as a human. Furious and frustrated, Yunho storms outside. She grabs a container of gasoline and attempts to burn the place down. Seol quickly grabs her to stop her, and the shouting attracts the monks. Soon afterward, both of them are arrested. At the police station, Seol tells Yunho that she will probably have to stay in jail until tomorrow. Suddenly, Yunho asks him if he brought the sword she had with her before she fainted the previous night. Seol admits that he left it behind. Yunho urgently tells him to go back and retrieve it, otherwise he might remain trapped in this life for years. She explains that if they want to change their destinies again, they need that sword. That night, Seol returns to the place with some of his friends. It is dark, and he warns them not to panic because strange things might be found there. He begins searching everywhere for the sword. Meanwhile, we see Wuok signing a new contract with the football club Landinium FC. The next morning, a police officer approaches Yunho in her cell and says, "Miss OK-sun, you're free to leave." Yunho is confused because she doesn't recognize that name. She even asks the officer to say it again. But soon she is released from jail. Once outside, she begins searching for Seol. When she cannot find him, she eventually sits alone on the roadside, exhausted. After some time, Seol arrives in a car and tells her they are heading to the mountains because he discovered something important. She immediately asks, "Did you find the sword?" He says he didn't find it, but instead he saw another nine-tailed fox in the mountains. He remembers seeing a newspaper article the night before that read, "A couple saved by a nine-tailed fox. They go to a restaurant to talk." Yunho insists that there cannot be another fox like her left in the world and says the story must be just imagination or rumors, but Seol explains what the couple said. According to them, while driving through a place called Kenta late at night, they encountered a beautiful young woman. At first, they believed she might be a ghost, but the woman told them she was a fox who wanted to do good deeds so she could become human. She saved their lives. After the newspaper article was published, many other people came forward claiming they had also been saved by a beautiful woman living in Seoraksan Mountain. When Seol finishes telling the story, Yunho begins analyzing the situation. She says it might be a trap. The place where they previously fought had already been cleaned up, the sword was gone, and the newspaper article was dated 20 years earlier. She is unsure whether the story is fake, a trap, or a way to lure them to meet the fox, living in the mountains. Soon they begin climbing Seoraksan Mountain as the sun is starting to set. They hadn't planned to stay overnight there, but they continue climbing anyway. As they climb higher, Yunho becomes very tired. An elderly woman coming down the mountain offers her a banana so she can regain some energy. Later, another man gives them a walking stick, warm clothes, and other supplies. Both of them are surprised by how kind the strangers are. However, a short while later, police officers arrive and take them to the station because someone reported that they might be trying to harm themselves on the mountain. The officers warn them that they cannot return to the mountain because they are not properly prepared, not even wearing warm clothes in the cold weather. After leaving the police station, they sit in a small cafe. Yunho's hands are shaking from exhaustion. Seol gently feeds her food with his own hands. After eating, Yunho becomes so tired that she falls asleep at the table. Later, Seol quietly approaches and watches her sleeping face. For a moment, he becomes lost in thought while looking at her, but suddenly he snaps out of it and begins trying to wake her up. While she was sleeping, Yunho had a nightmare. In the dream, Seol stabbed her with the sword. She wakes up suddenly in shock and sees Seol sitting right in front of her. Yunho suddenly jumps up and grabs Seol by the collar, shouting at him, "I lost the sword! Didn't I tell you yesterday that I saw it in your hands?" Seol looks confused and replies, You were sleeping. Why did you suddenly jump up like that? Did you have a nightmare? Yunho pauses and begins thinking. Then she realizes something important. She is no longer a fox spirit, but a normal human now. What she saw must have only been a dream. She calms herself down, and the two of them leave the cafe. They start searching for a hotel to stay in. After struggling for a long time, they finally find a very old and shabby hotel. The receptionist tells them there is only one room available. At first, Yunho refuses immediately. She complains that the hotel is dirty and uncomfortable. She also feels uneasy about sharing a room with Seol because of the frightening dream she had earlier. But eventually, she reluctantly agrees without telling him about the dream. Inside the room, she suddenly sees Seol holding a knife and becomes startled. But he calmly explains that he is only cutting an apple. He also notices that her leg is hurting, so he carefully treats it. Afterward, the two of them go to sleep. Later that night, Yunho wakes up and realizes that Seol is no longer lying in his bed. She goes outside searching for him and finds him sitting alone under the night sky, watching the stars. She approaches him and asks what he is doing outside so late at night. Seol explains that he always dreamed of sitting quietly at night, drinking alcohol and looking at the stars. Yunho then says, "Give me some too. I'm human now, so I want to try drinking alcohol." As they sit together, Seol asks if there were ever other foxes like her in the world, or if she was always alone. Yunho explains that there used to be another fox, and the two of them were the only ones in the world, but that fox died after she became human. Soon, Seol notices that Yunho is shivering from the cold, so he gently places his jacket around her shoulders. She teases him playfully and asks, "When human men wrap their jackets around women like this, doesn't it mean they like them?" Seol quickly denies it, saying he does not like her in that way. Yunho laughs and replies, "Don't be shy. Of course you like me. Look how beautiful I am." Seol looks embarrassed and says, "That's not why I gave you my jacket." Meanwhile, we see Wuok awake late at night, staring at the football trophies he has won. Looking at them quietly, he begins thinking that everything that has happened feels like a dream. The next morning, Seol and Yunho prepare to climb the mountain. They gather their equipment and begin the long journey upward. While climbing, Yunho's foot slips and she almost falls off the path. Luckily, Seol quickly grabs her and pulls her back. They continue climbing. Soon, Yunho becomes exhausted and sits down to rest, and the two of them eat some food. Night eventually arrives again. Yunho becomes extremely sleepy and tries to lie down, but Seol gives her coffee to help her stay awake. They begin wondering why the fox they came to find has not appeared, especially since the sun has already set. Seol wonders aloud, "What if there isn't actually a fox living here? What would we do then?" Then he adds another thought. The newspaper article was from 28 years ago. Maybe the fox already became human. Yunho shakes her head and says that is unlikely because fox spirits normally live only 300 to 400 years. The two of them continue walking through the freezing night. Yunho becomes scared and begins crying. "Am I going to die now that I've finally become human?" she says. Seol tries to comfort her and tells her that he is there with her, but suddenly he slips and falls into a deep pit. He injures his leg badly when he lands. They try to call for help, but his phone battery dies. While sitting there helplessly in the dark, they suddenly hear a voice asking, "Do you need help?" Both of them feel relieved. But when Yunho sees the woman's face, she immediately recognizes her. It is her sister, Ho. Yunho begins crying in shock and says, "Elle thought you had died all this time." But the Foxwoman looks confused and replies, "Do I know you?" Yunho asks desperately, "Then who are you if you're not Ho?" The woman calmly answers, "I'm just a fox who lives in these mountains." Hearing this makes Yunho both angry and heartbroken. She feels like someone is playing with her emotions. Overwhelmed with frustration, she storms off alone, even telling Seol not to follow her. Despite being warned that the path is dangerous, she keeps walking. Moments later, she nearly falls into another deep pit. Yunho suddenly stops walking and shouts. Into the darkness, "Elle, know you're watching me right now. Why don't you come out and face me? Why did I become human? And why did a fox that looks exactly like Ho suddenly appear in front of me? What do you want from me?" She continues yelling angrily. Meanwhile, we see the fox quietly healing Seol's injuries. Yunho sits down on the ground and keeps talking, declaring that she refuses to let anyone play with her fate. She promises that she will fight back and do whatever she can. Soon after, Seol and the fox arrive where she is. Because the night is extremely cold, the fox leads them to her shelter in the mountains. She lights a fire and goes to find food for them. While waiting, Seol asks Yunho what is really wrong with her. She tells him that everything is just a misunderstanding. Seol replies, "Then why did you start a fight?" Yunho shakes her head and says, "Elle didn't start a fight, the ones above us did." She then explains that the fox she once told him about, the one she used to live with, looks very similar to the fox they just met. When she first became human, she happened to encounter this fox, but that doesn't mean the fox has any hidden intentions toward her. Seol responds that even if she is angry, she should treat the fox well so that the fox might grant his wish. Soon the fox returns with food, but the only thing she brings is grass and green vegetables. Yunho looks at the food and says irritably, "What are you, a sheep? Do you live only on grass?" The fox calmly explains that whenever she tries to hunt animals, she ends up recognizing them as familiar creatures, and therefore she cannot bring herself to eat them. Seol forces himself to eat the grass politely, pretending to enjoy it for the fox's sake, even though he clearly dislikes it. He then explains why they came to the mountain. They were searching for her because he hoped she could grant his wish. At the same time, we see Wuok experiencing something strange. The objects inside his house begin shifting and moving on their own. His trophies suddenly disappear, but moments later they all return to their places. Back in the mountains, the fox attempts to grant Seol's wish, but she apologizes and explains that her power failed, even though she tried. Yunho then asks the fox how old she is. The fox answers that she is 500 years old, but she has never attempted anything like this before. Seol tells Yunho that if the fox doesn't know how to do it, maybe she could learn. But Yunho explains that such abilities are not learned skills. They depend on spiritual power. Seol still tries to persuade the fox to attempt the wish again, but Yunho quickly tells him that even if she tries again, she does not have the power to make it happen. Soon, the two of them begin arguing loudly. The fox tries to calm them down, but Yunho angrily tells her to stay out of it. "This whole mess is because of you," Yunho says. "You're a useless fox." The fox finally speaks up and reveals something shocking. "I'm not a 9-tailed fox. I'm an 8-tailed fox. I tried to tell you earlier, but you didn't listen." Both Yunho and Seol stare at her in shock. Elsewhere, Wuok is confused about the strange things happening around him. He tries to call Seol, but Seol's phone is turned off. Back in the mountains, the fox reveals her tails. Seol carefully counts them, and there are indeed 8 tails. Yunho then explains the difference between 8-tailed and 9-tailed foxes. She says that centuries ago, fox spirits began questioning why they could not become like humans. Over time, some foxes developed the desire to become even better than humans. Because of this desire, they began learning how to imitate human behavior. But every time they grew closer to becoming human, another tail appeared. A fox with 8 tails is slightly weaker than a 9-tailed fox, but still far more powerful than any human. The fox listens with amazement and asks Yunho how she knows so much about this. Yunho quietly answers that she used to be a 9-tailed fox herself, but she became human only a few days ago. Hearing this, the fox's eyes widen with excitement. "Oh, it's you. You're the one I've been waiting for. I've waited 200 years for you to come." She explains that before the old mountain master died, he told her that someone would eventually come to guide and take care of her, and that person was Yunho. Yunho shakes her head in disbelief. "No," she says, "you've misunderstood. That's not me." But the fox pleads desperately. "Please, sister, tell me how I can become human like you. I want to become human as soon as possible." As Yunho studies the fox's face carefully, she suddenly notices something shocking. The fox's face looks exactly like her sister's. The next morning, Yunho and Seol quietly leave the fox's house without saying goodbye. Meanwhile, Mr. Lee, the businessman, is at his home when his assistant arrives and asks him, "What exactly were you searching for?" Mr. Lee answers that he was looking for a 9-tailed fox. His assistant looks surprised. At that moment, Mr. Lee suddenly remembers that he has seen Seol's face somewhere before. He asks his assistant to investigate and find information about the young man he once hit with his car. After leaving the mountain, Yunho and Seol get into a car and begin their journey back. On the way, Seol asks her why she treated the fox so harshly the night before. Yunho remembers the moment clearly. When the fox asked her to turn her into a human, she had shouted angrily and even told her, "Don't call me sister, I'm not the person you've been waiting for." Now she tells Seol that she plans to search for some secret records that might explain everything. Suddenly, Seol calls her "okay son." Yunho immediately yells at him, warning him never to call her by that name again. Seol responds casually, saying, "That's my grandmother's name. Why do you hate it so much?" But Yunho keeps shouting at him, while Seol keeps teasing her by calling her "Oak Son" repeatedly all day. While they are arguing, the car suddenly runs out of fuel. Seol also realizes that he lost his credit card somewhere on the mountain. Since they cannot find another car, they are forced to continue walking on foot. Seol asks if she has any money so they can use it for now, promising that he will pay her back once he gets his life back. Yunho explains that she left her money at her house, which is located on Mount Myeohyang-san. Seol assumes it must be nearby, but when she shows him pictures of where her house actually is, he is shocked to learn that it is in North Korea. He had thought her house was somewhere within the city. "Why would you live somewhere that far away instead of Seoul?" he asks. Yunho calmly replies, "Myeohyang-san is my home. It's where I was born. And don't forget, I can fly there in a minute whenever I want, so it never mattered where I lived." Seol suggests asking the fox they met the previous night for help, maybe to bring them money, but Yunho refuses. After walking for a long time, Yunho becomes exhausted. They eventually find an old umbrella lying on the ground and continue their long walk together under it. Meanwhile, the mountain fox remains in her shelter. While cleaning her house, she discovers Seol's card that he accidentally left behind. At that moment, the old priest from the temple suddenly appears. Elsewhere, Seol and Yunho finally manage to hitch a ride on a cargo truck since they are both extremely tired and hungry. During the ride, Seol asks if there is any other way for him to return to his original life. Yunho tells him there is no other method. Seol jokingly suggests borrowing money from rich people and paying them back later, but Yunho shakes her head and says, "Humans, especially wealthy ones, are often ungrateful and untrustworthy." Meanwhile, Seol's friends grow worried because he has not returned home and his phone is turned off. They start checking his relatives' homes, afraid that something may have happened to him. When Seol and Yunho finally arrive in the neighborhood, they suddenly run into Wuok. They ask what he is doing there. Wuok immediately begins apologizing. He admits that he made a mistake and allowed his greed for money and success to control him. He says, "Please, just give me 1 week if a whole month is too long. I want to play in at least one international match." Seol replies calmly, "Do whatever you want. I'll just take a break while you play those big matches. But promise me one thing. When I ask you to return my life, you must agree immediately." Wuok happily promises and thanks him sincerely. While the three of them are standing there talking, the fox suddenly appears. She excitedly says, "Sister, I discovered a way for you to become a 9-tailed fox again." Yunho quickly tries to silence her because Wuok is standing right there, but the fox continues speaking anyway and adds, "And that means Seol could return to his original life as well, right?" Wuok looks confused and asks in, "Surprise, what do you mean? Are you saying you can become a 9-tailed fox again?" At that moment, he begins to understand the situation. He realizes that Seol has been trying to get his life back but hasn't been able to, and that things are not as simple as he thought. He also understands that Yunho is now just a normal human like everyone else, without her former powers, and that she is trying to return to what she once was. Wuok then turns to the fox and asks how she discovered the method that could return everything to the way it was before. But Yunho quickly interrupts him and says, "What are you planning to do if you learn that method? Are you trying to stop us?" Soon, the two of them begin arguing. Seol asks Wuok to leave, while Yunho asks the fox to erase Wuok's memory so that he forgets everything he just heard. A moment later, we see Wuok sitting in a car, looking confused because he can't remember why he was there. His father calls him angrily on the phone, scolding him for returning to Korea when he was supposed to be training for an important international match. His coach is already upset with him. After hanging up, Wuok suddenly remembers standing with Seol earlier, but he cannot understand whether that meeting really happened or not. Meanwhile, the three of them arrive at Seol's apartment, which is located on the rooftop of the building. Seol tells Yunho that it was a mistake to erase Wuok's memory because they could have simply explained everything to him. But Yunho replies coldly, Do you really think he would forget something like that so easily? If you died today, the first person to be happy might be Wuok. Never trust humans too much. She also explains something important. The eight-tailed fox doesn't actually have the power to erase people's memories. It's possible that Wuok's memories will return in a few days. That means we must restore everything before that happens. Yunho then turns to the fox and says, "Now tell us the method you discovered, the way to put everything back the way it was." The fox answers, "You and I must exchange destinies, just like Seol and Wuok did." After saying that, she suddenly transforms back into a fox and flies away. Meanwhile, Mr. Lee's assistant brings him a file containing Seol's background information. The assistant explains that Seol does not come from a wealthy family and that both of his parents are dead. Mr. Lee is surprised because he knows that the fox normally only works with wealthy clients. The assistant also tells him that Seol has a friend named Wuok, who became rich and famous while Mr. Lee was in prison. After hearing this, Mr. Lee says calmly, "Then I need to meet Wuok." Later, the three of them sit together eating. Seol asks the fox how she and Yunho can exchange their destinies. She explains that if they switch places, Yunho could become a powerful nine-tailed fox again, while she herself could easily become human. After that, Yunho would regain her power and could help Seol restore his life. Seol and the fox, whose name is Yunho, are excited by the idea. But Yunho suddenly asks suspiciously, "Wait, who told you about this method?" Yunho nervously replies that it's a secret she isn't supposed to reveal. Yunho immediately understands what is happening and says, "You don't have to say anything. I already know. Now leave, run." Yunho looks confused and asks why Yunho is rejecting the idea. Yunho answers seriously, "You've been tricked, girl. If I only think about my own interests, I could easily become a nine-tailed fox again. But what about you? You're not prepared to become human yet, and who would help you once you do?" Seol then tries to explain that human life can also be good. He tells her that when he was rich and successful, he was satisfied with his life. Then he says, "Yunho, you chose to remain a fox before, and no one forced you to change. Don't stop her from making her own decision to become human." After hearing this, Yunho finally agrees to consider it. She asks Yunho if she is truly determined to become human, but Yunho simply laughs softly, as if she herself isn't completely certain about the decision. Yunho then takes them somewhere else, a place full of online scammers and cyber criminals. She explains that this is also part of human life, where even innocent children and poor people are exploited. Seol disagrees and says, "Human life also has a beautiful side. Let me show you." He brings them to a lively restaurant filled with delicious food and offers it to the fox. Yunho looks amazed. With wide eyes, she says that in 500 years of living, she has never tasted food like this. Yunho scoffs and says, "That's because you lived in the mountains. When I was a nine-tailed fox, I used to eat food even better than this." Seol continues trying to convince her that human life can be wonderful, but Yunho becomes increasingly annoyed as the conversation continues. Yunho continues her argument and takes them into the restaurant kitchen. She shows Yunho the cooks working tirelessly and the workers washing dishes. Then she explains that even though these people work so hard every day, they cannot afford to eat the delicious food they prepare. "This is also part of human life," Yunho says. "No matter how hard people work, they cannot always enjoy the things right in front of them." Seol suddenly raises his voice and asks Yunho why she is so determined to stop Yunho from becoming human. Yunho calmly replies that Yunho would not be able to endure human life. But Yunho smiles and says cheerfully, "We went to the police station and the restaurant because you chose those places. Now I want to go somewhere I've always wanted to try when I become human." She brings them to an amusement park. Yunho becomes extremely excited and enjoys the rides like a child. After getting off one of the rides, she walks over to Yunho and says softly, "But there's one problem. When I was up there, all the children had their mothers beside them. I felt lonely." Yunho immediately replies, "No, that's not happening. I'm not going to be your mother. Be thankful I even came with you." However, in the end, Yunho reluctantly rides the attraction with her, still looking irritated the whole time. When they get off the ride, Yunho hesitates, but Yunho spots a children's car ride and excitedly says, "Let's ride that one too, sister." Yunho sighs in frustration but eventually agrees. Soon the three of them are laughing and playing together like children. Next, they enter a haunted attraction filled with skeletons and ghostly figures. This time, Yunho is the one who becomes frightened. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the sorcerer is visiting an old priestess. He tells her that his magical power has run out, so he asks her to perform a spell for him. Once she finishes casting the spell, he kills her and absorbs the magic she produced. Back at the amusement park, Seol and Yunho are still there. Seol admits that this is the first time he has ever come to a place like this. Then he notices that Yunho has injured her foot. He immediately becomes worried and shows genuine concern. Yunho is surprised. She has never experienced someone caring about her well-being before, and she can hardly believe what she is seeing. Seol gently says, "In this entire world, I don't really have anyone to worry about. No family, no real friends. The only person I have is you. So I worry about you, and you should worry about me too if something happens." After saying that, Seol walks away. While Yunho is standing there alone, she sees Ji-Yumho happily riding a carousel horse. That sight suddenly triggers a memory. She remembers a moment long ago when she and her sister Jumho were together. Back then, Yunho had said, "Whichever one of us becomes human first will have her wish granted. So tell me, what is your wish so I can grant it when you become human?" Jumho had replied that her dream was to see Yunho doing many good things and eventually becoming human as well, so the two of them could live together in the human world and grow old side by side. Yunho had jokingly replied, "What if I become human when you're already old, when you're a grandmother?" When Yunho returns from that memory, she sees Jumho standing right in front of her. Yunho asks her honestly if she truly wants to become human. She also tells her about another fox she once knew who desperately wanted to become human, and when she finally did, she eventually died. But Jumho answers with sincerity. She says she still wants to become human because she has never truly experienced real happiness. She explains that she wants to live a real life, even if it is short. She wants to feel happiness, sadness, memories of yesterday, and every human emotion. "Even if I'm sad one moment," she says, "my heart could be happy the next. Even if it means I'll eventually die, I still want to become human." Yunho then remembers another moment, when she was with an elderly woman. Now she realizes that the old woman was actually Jumho herself, living a human life. The woman had told her that she had lived as a human and never regretted it, and shortly after saying that, she passed away. Meanwhile, Seol is walking through the amusement park when he suddenly notices a woman he recognizes. Her name is Yoon-soo. He knew her before when she was single, but now she has 2 children. He wonders if it's really her or just someone who looks similar. Later, he finds Yunho sitting alone, looking sad. He brings her a cotton candy and carefully puts a bandage on her injured foot. Then he asks where the fox went. Yunho tells him that Gyeomho returned to the mountains. She also tells him that they did what he wanted. They changed fate. Seol becomes excited, believing that this means his life will soon return to normal. But Yunho explains that a 9-tailed fox needs all 9 tails, and the missing tail will take 100 years to grow. However, she smiles confidently and tells him that she is clever enough to find another way by the next night. When they arrive at Seol's apartment, Yunho immediately begins criticizing his living space, saying that it barely even qualifies as a proper home. Seol proudly tells her that his real house in the UK is luxurious, with a swimming pool, a theater, and many other comforts. As he tries to enter his bedroom, Yunho suddenly stops him and declares, "Since I'm older than you, I get the bed." When Seol tries to take a shower, she even snatches the towel from his hands and says that the older person should go first, even when it comes to using the shower. Later that night, Yunho suddenly wakes up from sleep. She walks out to the balcony and finds Seol lying on the floor, still asleep. She wakes him up and tells him that she is hungry. Then she asks him to cook the same noodles he made for Gyeomho before. Seol reluctantly goes to the kitchen and prepares the noodles. As Yunho eats, she asks why he didn't cook some for himself as well. He explains that he hasn't really been eating these days, and the last time he ate noodles like that was 13 years ago. Yunho insists that he at least try a bite, but once he tastes it, he ends up finishing the entire pot himself. Soon they cook another batch together and happily share it. Afterward, Yunho goes into the bathroom. When she looks at herself in the mirror, she becomes worried about her face and feels like she might start gaining weight. Seol also becomes concerned, realizing they just ate a huge amount of food very late at night. The next day, we see Seol training with his neighborhood soccer team. Their coach is angry because the players keep making too many mistakes during practice. Meanwhile, Yunho and Seol go out together as if they are going fishing. But Yunho suddenly clarifies that she isn't planning to catch fish, she is hunting humans. She then announces, "Starting today, we're launching our project of doing good deeds." She remembers the moment when she and the fox changed their destinies. At that time, the fox explained that to regain 9 tails, a fox must perform many good deeds. Because of that, Yunho was chosen to carry out those acts of kindness so the missing tail could return. Now she tells Seol that from today onward they must perform as many good deeds as possible in a very short time. Seol looks confused and asks, "What does fishing have to do with doing good deeds?" Then he realizes that Yunho is actually waiting for someone to jump off the bridge so she can save them. She believes that saving a life is the greatest good deed of all. Seol tells her that it could take a long time before someone tries to commit suicide, and besides, a forced good deed isn't truly good. Suddenly, Yunho gets another idea. She takes him to an illegal gambling den and tells him they should burn it down. She explains that the people inside are criminals who deal drugs and traffic human organs. However, she insists they wouldn't hurt anyone. They would only set the building on fire while she calls the firefighters, meaning they would end up saving many lives during the rescue. But Seol refuses immediately. "If we do that, we'll become criminals ourselves," he says. "That's not kindness. It's fake compassion. That's not a good deed." He refuses to start the fire. While they are still arguing, they suddenly hear loud commotion and shouting nearby. Flames have already broken out somewhere. Seol asks Yunho if she started the fire, but she insists she didn't. When they rush over to the scene, they discover that the fire has broken out at an orphanage and many children are trapped inside. Without hesitation, Seol runs straight into the burning building. Yunho follows him because she also wants to save the children. She manages to carry 3 children safely outside. As she brings them out, a desperate mother tells her that her child is still missing inside. Hearing this, Yunho immediately runs back into the burning building. Fortunately, Seol has already rescued the missing child and brought them outside. But now, Yunho is the one trapped inside. The door of the room suddenly shuts behind her, and she struggles to find a way out. When she opens the door again, she sees that the fire has spread everywhere. Just then, Seol rushes back inside and saves her, shielding her from a large metal beam that is about to fall, using his own body to protect her. Later, we see Yunho lying in a hospital bed. Suddenly, she wakes up and jumps out of bed in panic, desperately searching for Seol because she fears he might have died or been seriously hurt. But then Seol appears in front of her, perfectly fine. Overcome with emotion, Yunho begins to cry. She tells him she was truly worried about him. Then she suddenly hugs him tightly and says, "If you had died, I would have killed myself too." We then flash back in a time to understand who treated Seol. We see Seol sitting with a doctor while his injured hand is being treated. However, this doctor is actually the old man who belonged to the group of spiritual beings, the same group that Yunho used to work with. But when Seol steps outside, the nurse notices something strange. There is no doctor in the room at all. Moments later, the real doctor arrives, revealing that the mysterious healer had already disappeared. Soon after, Yunho arrives and finds Seol healthy. The two of them leave together, but as they walk outside, Yunho is about to get hit by a car. At the last second, Seol saves her and she becomes startled and embarrassed. Trying to hide her feelings, Yunho begins teasing him. "You're so dirty," she says. "You look like a beggar." Seol quickly replies, "Have you even looked at yourself? You're just as dirty." Because of their messy appearance, they decide to go buy some clothes. They enter a clothing store where Yunho immediately starts collecting many outfits, but Seol nervously tells her that he doesn't have much money and asks her to take only a few things. Yunho waves his concern away confidently. "Don't worry," she tells him. "Soon you'll return to your former wealthy life." She even begins picking up a phone and several other expensive items, but when they reach the checkout counter, the cashier informs them that their card doesn't have enough money. Embarrassed, Yunho suddenly grabs the clothes and runs out of the store, quickly tearing off the price tags while fleeing. Seol is completely shocked and mortified by what she did. Meanwhile, in another place, Wuok is busy signing autographs for his fans. During the event, a mysterious man wearing a disguise approaches him and hands him a book to sign. But when Wuok opens it, he suddenly notices something inside, a card of hope. He freezes in shock. The man calmly says, "I am Mr. Lee." Wuok immediately remembers him. They had once encountered each other in court after Wuok ran him over with his car. Overcome with anger, Wuok suddenly throws a punch and starts shouting, but his security guards quickly restrain him. At the same time, Seol and Yunho return home after their shopping disaster. They are both confused, wondering why their lives still haven't changed despite everything they've done. Yunho complains, "We helped a person who was burning and tried to do something good. Why hasn't our life changed?" Seol sighs and replies, "If we continue living in this poverty, we might end up dying." While they are still talking, the mysterious girl with 8 foxtails suddenly appears before them. She calmly tells them, "Nothing about your lives will change. You haven't truly done any real good." The two of them feel shocked and disappointed. After saying this, the fox-tailed girl simply leaves them there. Elsewhere, Wuok's father tells him to apologize to the man he attacked before the situation becomes worse for their family, but Wuok refuses. Mr. Lee then says, "I'll know the reason for your success. It's because of the card of hope. What I want is simple. Help me make peace between myself and her." But Wuok coldly replies, "There's no way I will help you. You are my enemy." Mr. Lee notices Wuok's strange behavior and asks suspiciously, "Has she driven you crazy?" Wuok answers thoughtfully, "I'll think I may have discovered a secret about her." Mr. Lee becomes excited. "Has her power weakened?" But Wuok shakes his head. "I don't remember anything clearly." Still, Mr. Lee desperately wants to know more about the Foxwoman because he continues living in constant fear of her. Meanwhile, Seol and Yunho are still discussing what they should do next. Finally, Seol tells her, "All these problems come from your behavior. Try to change yourself." Yunho is surprised by his words. He continues, "We should start doing something good." He suggests that they volunteer at an elderly care center, working there for free so their good deeds might change their fate. After some hesitation, Yunho finally agrees. But Seol warns her again that she must improve her attitude and behave kindly. Soon, they arrive at the elderly care center and speak with the receptionist, explaining that they want to work there voluntarily without pay. They are allowed to help and begin by washing laundry. Throughout the work, Seol constantly reminds Yunho to improve her manners. While doing the laundry, they suddenly notice that the dryer has burned out, so they decide to dry the clothes under the sun instead. As they work, Seol says hopefully, "If we keep doing good like this, maybe we can escape this life and return to the life we had before. Just keep improving your behavior." But Yunho becomes annoyed and splashes water at him. Soon, the two of them start playing with the water and laughing together. Suddenly, the woman who manages the center appears and starts shouting at them, "It's time for food! Come out!" Seol begins drying himself off, but Yunho suddenly becomes distracted. She stares at his body and muscles, unable to look away. Embarrassed, she quickly tells him, "Put your clothes on!" They begin arguing playfully, but suddenly Yunho slips and falls. Seol quickly catches her, and for a moment their eyes lock, staring deeply at each other. Just then, Seol's friends arrive unexpectedly and shout, "Have some shame, there are elderly people here." Both Seol and Yunho immediately feel very embarrassed, and the group heads to the restaurant area together. Seol asks his friends why they came there. They explain that they are promoting a hospital nearby. But then they tell him something shocking. His grandmother is currently in that hospital. Seol is stunned. "My grandmother died a long time ago," he says. Something must be wrong. Confused and emotional, he rushes to the place where she is supposed to be. There he sees something unbelievable. His teacher and his grandmother happily playing together. Seol is completely shocked. With tears in his eyes, he walks toward his grandmother and gives her a warm hug, telling her how much he missed her. The two begin talking, but Seol sadly admits that it breaks his heart to see her living in an elderly care facility. Seol apologizes to his grandmother, telling her he regrets that he didn't do more for her when he still had money. But his grandmother gently smiles and replies that she actually feels like a lucky person. She shows him her phone and says, "You used to take me to places this beautiful. I'm always proud of you." Watching from above, Yunho observes the entire scene. She is surprised by how happy Seol and his grandmother look together. Suddenly, however, an elderly man appears and aggressively attacks Yunho. Just as the situation becomes dangerous, the nurses quickly intervene and stop him, saving her. Yunho is confused and wonders why the old man suddenly attacked her. Soon, the old man's son arrives and apologizes to her for what happened. Later that evening, they return home. Seol begins cooking dinner, and the two of them sit down to eat together. Yunho tastes the food and praises him warmly. "This is really delicious," she says. As they continue talking, Seol asks her why the old man attacked her earlier. Yunho replies that she thinks he may have been one of her former clients, but she doesn't know the exact reason for his anger. Seol then tells her something surprising. "I don't want my old life anymore," he says. "I've found my grandmother again, and I don't want to lose her a second time." Then he asks her, "What about you? Have you found anything interesting about being human?" Yunho stays silent for a moment. Finally, she looks at him and says softly, "L like you. Whenever I look at you, I feel my heart beating faster." Seol is completely shocked, but Yunho continues confidently, "We should start dating. I think I'm starting to like being a fox without tails 8 or 9. Seol looks even more confused. "Do you love me?" he asks. Yunho explains, "When I was a fox spirit, I never talked to men. But now that I'm human, I want to try experiencing what it feels like to date a man." Seol has no idea how to respond. Later that night, when it's time to sleep, he suddenly notices that Yunho is lying in the same bed with him. "Go to your room," he protests. "What's wrong with you?" But Yunho insists she wants to sleep next to him. The next morning at breakfast, Yunho playfully tells him, "Feed me." Even though he feels awkward, Seol reluctantly feeds her. Then she suggests, "How about we hold hands now?" Seol becomes extremely embarrassed, but she forces him to hold her hand, smiling happily. "Soon we'll become a beautiful couple," she says. But Seol replies carefully, "Everything has its own time. Let's wait." The next day, Seol and Yunho return to the elderly care center to look for the old man who attacked her. However, they are told that the old man has passed away. They attend his funeral. During the gathering, Yunho asks the man's son what his father used to do. The son explains that his father was once a wealthy pharmaceutical businessman, but suddenly he lost everything and became poor. According to him, someone had placed a curse on him. Yunho does not seem convinced by this story, and they eventually leave the place. Outside, Yunho tells Seol that they should donate some money to help with the funeral expenses, but Seol refuses. "We barely have any money ourselves," he says. "How can we help others? Are you crazy?" However, Yunho insists, and eventually Seol reluctantly agrees. Soon after, the fox girl appears again and tells Yunho that her powers have slightly returned because they gave charity. Yunho becomes very happy hearing this. "But I still can't transfer any powers to you yet," the fox girl explains. "However, I can help you." They then visit a wealthy old man who used to work with the deceased man and who was once one of Yunho's former clients. They meet him in a luxurious environment and sit down together. Yunho tells him directly, "You used to be one of my clients. I was the one behind your wealth. Now I want you to do something for me." The old man replies, "If you want money, I can give it to you right now." But Yunho asks him to build an entire house instead. At first, the man refuses. Suddenly, the other fox girl watching from above shatters the objects on the table, frightening him badly. Terrified, the old man finally agrees to their request. Afterward, Seol, Yunho, and the fox girl travel together. The fox girl asks them to take her to a restaurant, but Seol admits they have no money. "I'll find a solution," he says. He then goes to meet his soccer team, who are practicing and currently struggling. Seol joins the field and helps them win the game, while Yunho and the fox girl watch from the side, cheering for him. After the match ends, Seol believes he will receive a good amount of money, but his teammates explain that today's match was only practice and there is no payment at all. Seol becomes deeply disappointed and walks away. Feeling discouraged, he returns to Yunho and explains what happened. Seeing his sadness, Yunho smiles and suggests, "How about we forget all that and go on a date instead? You looked really handsome today." Even though he feels reluctant, Seol eventually agrees. They prepare and head out together. He asks her where she wants to go, and she chooses a beautiful place she has always liked. When they arrive, Yunho looks incredibly happy. She writes both of their names on a lock and attaches it to a railing there. Afterward, they sit down to eat together and spend the time enjoying a warm and joyful atmosphere. Meanwhile, Mr. Lee brings a sorcerer to meet Wuok, a man who knows how to restore lost memories. The sorcerer performs his ritual, and Wuok's memories gradually return. After remembering everything, Wuok reveals an important secret. The fox with 9 tails has now become an ordinary human with no powers left. Hearing this, Mr. Lee becomes extremely happy. At the same time, Yunho and Seol return home after their date. Smiling softly, Yunho says that the time they spent together was one of the most beautiful moments of her life, something she will never forget, even if she eventually returns to her former life as a fox spirit. However, she adds something troubling. "If I return to my old life," she says, "I'll have the power to erase all of these memories." Hearing this makes Seol feel deeply sad. Looking at her seriously, he replies, "Please don't erase my memories. I want to remember you. You're the first person I've ever truly loved. I want us to continue this relationship and share our lives together." At that moment, it becomes clear that true feelings of love have begun to grow between them. Elsewhere, the sorcerer asks Wuok an important question. "If the 9-tailed fox became a normal human, then who erased your memories?" Wuok explains that another girl was there that day, and he suspects that she might also have been another fox spirit. Hearing this shocks the sorcerer. That night, Yunho cannot sleep. She keeps remembering the beautiful moments she shared with Seol. Meanwhile, Seol is also awake, unable to stop thinking about her. The next morning, they both feel shy around each other because of their growing feelings. To ease the awkwardness, Seol suggests they exercise together. They start jogging side by side, spending time together in a peaceful way. Yunho quickly becomes tired, but Seol encourages her to play soccer with him. She agrees, and the two of them begin playing together happily. Eventually, they walk away holding hands. Smiling, Seol suggests that they should go on a trip together someday, but Yunho gently reminds him that they should first work hard and earn money. Seol agrees with her. The next day, Seol goes to his team's training center, ready for practice. However, when he arrives, he finds the place completely empty. Confused, he calls his teammates, who tell him that they are playing a game online and that there is no training session today. Meanwhile, Yunho goes out searching for a job. When she is asked what skills she has, she confidently replies, "Elle can do anything." Because of that, she is assigned several different tasks, wearing a mascot costume to greet customers, helping in reception, and other temporary jobs. However, Yunho's personality quickly causes problems. She becomes impatient and shouts at customers, which leads to her being fired from the job. Still, she is paid for the work she did that day. Elsewhere, Seol meets his coach and asks why the team hasn't been training. The coach delivers shocking news. The team has lost all of its sponsors and funding, and they are now in serious financial trouble. Hearing this leaves Seol feeling deeply upset. That evening, Yunho returns home extremely frustrated about everything that happened during the day. Soon after, Seol arrives looking equally discouraged. But suddenly, Yunho surprises him by showing him the money she earned that day. Seol is shocked. "Where did you get that money?" he asks. She proudly replies that she earned it by working, adding that she is a woman with many talents. While they are still talking, Seol's friends arrive, asking to watch the national team match together. Seol is surprised and tells them to watch it at their own homes instead, but they insist on staying. Eventually, they all sit down and have dinner together while watching the match. Meanwhile, Mr. Lee is relaxing comfortably. His advisor approaches him and reports that everything is going according to plan. The team has lost its sponsors. It becomes clear that Mr. Lee himself was responsible for cutting off the sponsorships for Seol's team, leaving them in a very difficult situation. Elsewhere, Wuok and his team are preparing for the national match, but Wuok suddenly begins to feel severe pain and anxiety. At the same time, Yunho breaks down in tears. She asks Seol sadly, "What is wrong with us? No matter how hard we try, why doesn't our life change?" Seol tries to comfort her, gently telling her that everything will eventually get better. Just as their mood begins to calm down, one of Seol's friends suddenly arrives with urgent news. "Wuok collapsed before the national match even started," he says. "He was rushed to the hospital." Hearing this, Seol and Yunho immediately rush toward the hospital. On the way, Seol desperately asks Yunho if she can use her powers to save his friend. But Yunho sadly replies, "I don't have any powers left. There's nothing I can do." Hearing that leaves Seol deeply distressed. Soon after, Yunho and Seol rush to the hospital where Wuok has been taken. While there, Yunho suddenly sees the old man they once worked with, the one who possessed spiritual powers. He delivers shocking news. Wuok is not going to die immediately, but he will slowly die over time. The reason, he explains, is the exchange of fate that happened between Wuok and Seol. He tells Yunho that even if Seol returned to his former life, he would still have died, because the destiny of death originally belonged to him. Yunho is devastated by this revelation. Desperately, she asks if there is any way to save Wuok. The old man gives her a miraculous bead and explains its power. If she uses it, she will return to being a fox spirit again, but there is a painful consequence. She will never see Seol again. Meanwhile, Seol meets Wuok's father in the hospital and anxiously asks about his friend's condition. With a sorrowful expression, the father replies, "My son's condition is very serious. There's nothing we can do." Later, Yunho and Seol take a bus back home. During the ride, Seol talks about how much Wuok means to him. "He's the only friend I've had since childhood," he says sadly. "I don't want to lose him." But Yunho keeps the truth she learned to herself. She cannot bring herself to tell him what she heard, and instead she silently tries to comfort him as night falls. The next morning, Yunho brings out a notebook and tells Seol that they should reconcile with everyone they had conflicts with so they can return to their previous lives. The notebook contains the names of everyone they fought with. In reality, Yunho is doing this only to comfort and distract Seol, trying to keep him hopeful. At the same time, in the hospital, the doctor gives Wuok terrible news. He has developed heart cancer and has only 6 months left to live. Wuok and his father are completely shocked and devastated by the diagnosis. When they return to the room, Wuok becomes extremely angry. He refuses to accept death. Turning to his father, he says, "Don't tell anyone that I have cancer. Let's leave this hospital. I want to meet Seol." Soon after, Wuok calls Seol and asks him to come meet him. Seol and Yunho quickly return to the hospital. When they arrive, Wuok tells Seol that he is ready to exchange their fates again. At that moment, Yunho quickly interrupts and tells Seol, "Go outside and buy something for your friend to eat." Seol leaves the room without suspecting anything. Once he's gone, Yunho speaks privately with Wuok. Looking directly at him, she says coldly, "I'll know everything. You want your friend to die so you can live, but that will never happen." Wuok is stunned. Yunho continues harshly, "You're a terrible friend. You're the one who deserves to die." After saying that, she turns around and walks away, leaving Wuok speechless. When Seol returns, Yunho quickly tells him that they should leave the hospital immediately. But Seol looks confused and says, "Elle already bought some vegetables. Where should I take them now?" Yunho convinces him that it would be better to return the items to the shop and get the money back. Eventually, he agrees, and the two of them head toward the store. However, when they arrive near the shop where he bought the vegetables, Yunho suddenly stops. She tells him, "That's the shop where I used to work, the one that fired me. I'm not going inside." Seol replies calmly, "Just wait for me outside. I'll go in and get my money back." When Seol enters the shop to return the items, he unexpectedly sees a woman who used to be his manager back when he was famous. He immediately brings her outside to meet Yunho and explains that she was someone he worked with in the past. The woman is also surprised to see him, but Yunho angrily says, "She's the one who fired me from this shop. I don't want to see her." Trying to calm the situation, Seol suggests that they go eat lunch together. The three of them head to a restaurant and sit down to eat. During the meal, Seol asks the woman how her life has been. She sighs and explains that she lost all her money, so she ended up marrying a man and now has 2 children. Seol is surprised by this. Then she asks him, "Are you still a soccer player?" He nods and says yes. She encourages him warmly, telling him not to give up and to keep working hard toward his dream. At that moment, Seol asks her for a favor. He requests that she return to her old job as his manager and help his team. "My team is in a difficult situation right now," he explains. "We need help finding a company that will sponsor us so we can earn money." The woman is surprised by the request, but Seol reminds her that she has great experience in that field and worked in it for many years. Eventually, she agrees and promises, "I'll try my best." Meanwhile, Mr. Lee meets the sorcerer again, bringing him a large amount of money. Mr. Lee's new goal is clear. He wants the sorcerer to capture the fox with 8 tails. Back at the restaurant, when Seol, Yunho, and the woman go to the counter to pay for their meal, Yunho suddenly says, "I'll pay for everything." Seol is shocked and asks where she got the money. Yunho casually reveals that she stole Wooseok's credit card. "Don't worry about money anymore," she says confidently. "This card has no limit." When they return home, Seol becomes upset. "How could you steal my friend's card? Are you crazy?" he asks. But Yunho argues back, saying, "How else can we live without money?" Eventually, Seol reluctantly accepts it and even apologizes for scolding her. The next morning, Seol and Yunho spend some peaceful time together. Suddenly, Seol suggests, "How about we go on a trip together and spend some time alone?" But Yunho responds with another idea. "What if the whole team comes with us? I can pay for everything with this unlimited CARD." They then surprise the entire soccer team with the idea of going on a group trip. Even the team's coach can hardly believe what he's hearing. Soon, everyone boards a bus together and begins the journey. But shortly after they depart, the coach receives an urgent phone call. He suddenly asks the bus to stop and gets off in the middle of the road. "I've been told there's an emergency," he says before running off and quickly taking a taxi. Meanwhile, Seol's former manager meets Mr. Lee. She is trying to find a sponsorship company for Seol's team, and that is why she meets him, since Mr. Lee owns a large and famous company. The next day, the sorcerer successfully captures the fox with 8 tails. He begins weakening her powers with his magic, and eventually she collapses to the ground, powerless. At the same time, Yunho is lying beside Seol, asleep. Suddenly, she has a terrifying dream in which Seol stabs her with a knife. She wakes up in shock and panic. When Seol notices her fear and asks, "What happened to you?" Yunho cannot answer. Instead, she stays silent and begins quietly crying. That night, businessman Yoon suddenly wakes up from his sleep, disturbed by a memory of the night when the fox spirit swore her oath. Rising from his bed, he grabs a gun and tells his secretary that he has been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. Meanwhile, when Seol arrives at the stadium, he recalls the moment earlier when he and Yunho were boarding the bus together. She had been crying after waking from a frightening dream, warning him that a storm was about to happen. The rest of the team members are also confused about their coach's strange behavior lately, as they are gossiping. About it, the coach suddenly arrives. He announces exciting news. They have finally found a sponsor, and from now on they will work with Ms. Han-soo. The coach further reveals that each player will now receive 200,000 won instead of the 50,000 won they used to earn. On top of that, they will receive a bonus of 1 million won. The players explode with excitement. They jump and cheer, celebrating the news while preparing themselves for today's match. When the match begins, Yunho watches in amazement at how passionate and energetic the players are. Suddenly, the businessman Yoon comes and sits beside her. He casually tells her that he spent a large amount of money to make all this happen. The moment Yunho sees his face, she recognizes him immediately. Yoon smirks and tells her that he now knows she has become human, meaning she can no longer harm him. Then he threatens her coldly, saying that one by one he will hunt down the people closest to her. After Seol's team wins the match, Seol notices Yoon sitting next to Yunho. Furious, he runs toward him and starts punching him. Later, the angry coach storms into the players' locker room. He scolds Seol and demands that he apologize to Yoon, but the others inform him that Yoon has already left. The coach then reveals shocking news. The man Seol punched is actually the owner of the company that just signed their sponsorship deal. The coach becomes so overwhelmed with anger that he suddenly faints. Afterward, Seol takes Yunho away and tells her that he wants to return to Seoul. He admits that he was terrified for her life, especially after realizing that Yoon had previously tried to kill her. He pulls her into a tight embrace. Yunho reassures him softly, telling him that everything will be fine. As they stand together, Gyumni appears nearby, but unfortunately they cannot see or hear her. Since the sorcerer cursed her, she now exists only as a spirit. No matter how hard she tries, she cannot help Yunho. Later, while riding on a bus, Yunho notices that Seol is wearing the same shirt she saw in her dream, making her believe the dream might actually come true. She quickly tells him that they shouldn't get off the bus or return to Seoul, because they came here for a trip, not to run away from their problems. So they return to the village they were visiting, an old place with ancient wooden houses. There, they begin enjoying their time, playing around and having fun together. Eventually, they sit down to eat, feeding each other bites of food playfully. Seol also begins taking photos of the beautiful scenery of the town, and the two of them take several pictures together. Meanwhile, at his home, Mr. Yoon is drinking alcohol and celebrating wildly when the sorcerer Du Cheol suddenly appears. Du Cheol explains that he failed to steal the fox's powers, but instead he used all of his own power and magic to curse her. Now he himself is dying, and unless he obtains the fox's power, he will soon die. However, he reveals that Yunho is still under his spell and must obey his command. Because of that, she will deliver the fox's power to him with her own hands. Later, as Seol and Yunho walk together, Yunho tells him how happy she is about the time they've spent together. She then asks him a serious question. "Would you be willing to let me remain human forever?" she asks, "while you return to your life of wealth and fame?" Seol answers without hesitation that he accepts that. Yunho is shocked and asks how he could possibly live such a difficult life forever. Seol gently tells her that he knows she is hiding something and fighting her battles alone. But if living this way forever is the solution, he is willing to do it for her. Yunho replies that she has not given up yet and will keep trying as long as she can. Overwhelmed with emotion, she begins to cry. She confesses that she is terrified that one of them might lose the other, and that she might not be able to save them both. Finally, she tells him sincerely that she truly loves him. Later, they arrive at a hotel, but unfortunately the only available room has just one bed. Yunho laughs and says there is nothing strange about it since they have always lived together in the same house anyway. Seol tries to request another room, but she stops him, insisting that this room is perfectly fine. Slowly, they move closer to each other. Seol finally confesses his love, and that night the two of them fall asleep together in the same room. The next morning, while Seol's team is training at the gym and warming up, the woman who recently signed the sponsorship contract arrives and begins speaking about Seol. Meanwhile, Seol and Yunho are walking together early in the morning. Seol tells her that he plans to skip training that day. Yunho suddenly asks him if he is still wearing the same shirt he wore the previous night. She insists that it looks ugly and forces him to throw it in the trash, even though he tells her that he likes it. Eventually, he gives in and throws it away, which makes her happy. As they continue walking, however, Yunho suddenly senses something strange. Moments later, Jumni appears in front of them, but she is being controlled by the sorcerer. Coldly, she says, "Give me back my fox bead." She begins using her power and repeatedly demands, "Return my bead." Then she touches Yunho on the forehead, causing Eunho to collapse to the ground. Elsewhere, the sorcerer and Mr. Yoon are waiting, expecting that they will obtain the fox bead that very night. If they succeed, the sorcerer explains that he will continue living and gain power even greater than that of a nine-tailed fox, and he will no longer remain human. If that happens, he plans to take revenge for his wife, who died cruelly, and also against all the priests who tried to destroy him, even though he once fought against them himself. Meanwhile, Yunho suddenly finds herself in her old home, confused about how she arrived there. Soon, Gyumni appears again, dressed beautifully, and invites her to go shopping together. Yunho looks at her in shock and says, "Gyumni, didn't you die years ago before I became human?" Gyumni dismisses it, claiming that Yunho must have dreamed it. Yunho then explains that she had a strange dream where she became human and fell in love with a handsome man. At that moment, it becomes clear that Yunho is trapped inside an illusion affecting her mind. Jumni then asks, "Where is the bead I left with you?" She leads Yunho toward a hospital room, continuing to question her. Suddenly, however, the real spirit of Gyumni appears and urgently tells Yunho, "Sister, don't say anything. Can't you hear Seol's voice?" At that moment, the fake Gyumni violently grabs Yunho by the throat, trying to strangle her. Yunho suddenly recalls a memory when she took the bead from her sister and promised to hide it safely because some humans were searching for it. She had hidden it inside a sword, the only place it could remain concealed. Meanwhile, in the real world, Seol and the real Gyeomni are desperately trying to wake Yunho. Gyeomni then gives the sword to Seol. Inside the illusion, Yunho's spirit hears a voice telling her to say to Seol, "Place the sword in my hand." The moment the sword is placed into her hand, Yunho drives the blade into the body controlled by the sorcerer. At the same instant the blade strikes, the sorcerer suddenly begins coughing blood, while Gyeomni returns to her normal state. Yunho finally awakens and, catching her breath, tells them that they are all safe now. Elsewhere, the sorcerer is suddenly attacked by the spirits of the priests whose lives he once took, and he finds himself in grave danger. Later, when Seol's friends arrive at his house, they see him looking exhausted and confused, so they begin helping to tidy things up. Soon after, Seol arrives with Yunho, who still has a slight fever. The friends eventually leave, and Seol decides to go to the supermarket to buy food for her. Unfortunately, he realizes too late that he forgot his wallet at home, so he turns back. Meanwhile, Yunho wakes up from her sleep, and suddenly, Mr. Yoon enters the house holding a gun. He threatens that he is going to kill her. Just as he is about to pull the trigger, Seol arrives and grabs the gun, fighting with Yoon. During the struggle, Yoon manages to push Seol away and fires the gun toward Yunho, but Seol throws himself in front of her, taking the bullet himself. Yunho is horrified. Trembling, she cries, "This isn't the fate I saw in my dream." She begins screaming and sobbing uncontrollably. Seol collapses unconscious. Yunho quickly calls an ambulance and he is rushed to the hospital, where doctors immediately take him into surgery. At that moment, Wuok is holding the fox bead that Yunho secretly entrusted to him. He remembers the moment she gave it to him, asking him to protect it because the sorcerer was chasing her. Even Wuok had been shocked that she trusted him so much, especially knowing the kind of person he truly was. Later, while sitting in his room, Wuok sees breaking news on television. Seol has been seriously injured at his home and is now hospitalized. Back at the hospital, Yunho anxiously waits outside the operating room. Soon the doctor approaches her and delivers devastating news. They have done everything they could, but Seol's condition is extremely critical, and she must prepare herself for the possibility that anything could happen. Crying uncontrollably, Yunho walks into Seol's hospital room, where he lies unconscious in a coma. As she looks at him, she remembers the dream she once had, as well as the warning from the old priest who had told her long ago. If you become human, either the two of you will be separated forever, or one of you will die. Soon, Wuok arrives at the hospital, and Yunho brings him inside. She tells him that there is only one way to save Seol, but she needs his help. Then she reveals the magical sword and asks Wuok to stab her with it. She explains that if she dies, everything will return to its original state, and Seol will live. Quietly in her heart, she says her final goodbye. When the blade pierces her and blood begins to flow, the fox bead suddenly releases immense power. Because of that power, Gyeomni gains 9 tails, and at the same moment, Seol awakens from his coma. However, fate shifts again. Seol takes Wuok's place and becomes the one holding the sword, and he is the one who ends up stabbing Yunho, since his destiny and Wuok's had been exchanged. The moment he realizes what he has done, Seol is horrified. With tears in his eyes, he cries out, "You were supposed to find a way for both of us to survive, not for one of us to lose the other. Please don't leave me like this. I want us to live together." Weakly, Yunho replies, "When you return to your life, I originally wanted to erase your memories so you could forget me, but now I don't have that power anymore, so please, forget me on your own. I love you." And then, slowly, her body begins to fade away until she disappears completely. Later, the old priest is shown standing near a river during a violent storm, rain and wind raging around him. Yunho appears beside him, and he gently gives her a bowl of milk. Back at the hospital, Seol and Wuok are both there when the doctor suddenly becomes confused, noticing that the medical test results have mysteriously changed. 1 year later, Seol has returned to his former life of fame and success, becoming a very famous soccer player once again. Meanwhile, Gyeomni finally becomes human, just as she had always hoped. In another scene, a young girl excitedly tells her father that she has obtained Seol's autograph, proudly showing it to him. 9 years later, Seol visits Wuok and his father at the restaurant they own. While drinking together, Wuok tells Seol that he is thinking about quitting soccer and starting a business instead. During their conversation, Seol admits that Yunho still lives in his mind. He says that the two of them are probably the only people left who still remember her, even though she once asked him to forget her. He also confesses something strange. He feels as though Yunho might still be alive somewhere, and even believes she might still be watching over him. For example, when he was injured the previous year, doctors said it would take 6 months to recover, but he healed in only 1 month. Another time, he accidentally left his passport behind, but somehow still managed to travel without any problem. Wuok dismisses these thoughts, telling him it's just his imagination and that he should try to move on from Yunho. Later that night, as Seol walks home, he suddenly notices a car that he once rode in with Yunho. Memories flood back of the times they used to walk together along the same road. Suddenly, the streetlights flicker on, and Seol feels strongly that Yunho is somewhere nearby. He begins running quickly back to his house, calling out and searching for her. Deep down, he has never truly believed that she died. He climbs to the roof of his house, preparing to jump down in despair, but suddenly someone grabs his hand and pulls him back. It's Yunho. Below them, Gyumni watches quietly. Yunho immediately begins scolding Seol angrily, shouting at him, but before she can finish, Seol pulls her into a tight embrace. Elsewhere, the old priest is visited by another elder who asks him why he allowed Yunho to return. The priest replies that she has learned enough from her mistakes and corrected them. Back with Seol, Yunho explains that she doesn't remember much about the moment she died. She only remembers waking up near a river, where she lived in sadness for some time before being sent back to the city where she had died, Namsan. She tells him that she actually returned a year ago. Hearing this, Seol becomes furious and shouts at her for hiding the truth, explaining that he has lived in deep sadness ever since she left. Yunho explains that she hid it because she was afraid for his life, and everything she did was meant to protect him. Then she tells him she wants to erase his memories of her so he can live peacefully and she will never appear in his life again. But Seol refuses. "If you really wanted to erase my memories," he says, "you would have done it long ago." Yunho tries to convince him that he is human and that someday he will die, which means they will inevitably be separated again. But Seol stands firm. Even if he eventually dies, he says, their memories and the time they shared together should never be forgotten. The scene shifts with Seol at home, carefully getting dressed. He keeps trying on different outfits, comparing them in the mirror. It soon becomes clear why. He is preparing for their first date in 10 years. When he finally arrives to meet Yunho, he brings her a bouquet of flowers. But as he approaches, he notices someone taking pictures nearby. At first, he assumes the person must be a reporter, but Yunho quickly explains that it's actually a photographer she hired because she wants them to take memorable photos together. When the photographer looks closely at Seol, he suddenly realizes something surprising. He is the same photographer who took the very first photo of the two of them together years ago. But Yunho didn't stop there. She even invited a whole production team of producers to film and record their date. The two of them begin their date by sharing ice cream. Then they hold hands and start walking together. However, every step they take is being filmed and photographed. They visit different places, doing various activities, while the cameras continue recording everything. Eventually, Seol laughs and says he wants to escape from all these people so he can spend time alone with her. Yunho smiles and tells him, "Then I'll take you to my home." She brings him to her house located in the mountains of North Korea. When they arrive, Seol looks around in surprise and asks if she really lived alone in such a large house all this time. While they are enjoying a romantic moment together, Gyumni suddenly appears. She reveals that she also became a 9-tailed fox on the day Yunho sacrificed herself to save Seol. She also explains that 10 years earlier, Yunho made her promise that if anything ever happened to them, she would protect Seol. In fact, Gyumni had secretly saved Seol from falling into a coma several times. After Gyumni leaves, Yunho explains to Seol that ever since Gyumni gained her 9 tails, she has become much more temperamental. Yunho also tells him that on the day she saved his life, the sorcerer returned to life and tried to kill Gyumni. However, she managed to defeat him and sent the spirits of all the people he had killed after him. As for the man who shot Seol, he eventually ended up in prison. Afterward, the two sit together talking for a long time, sharing everything that happened during the 10 years they were apart. Seol tells her that he eventually opened his own club, and he even reconnected with his former soccer teammates, signing new deals with them. His old friends still support him, though they can hardly believe how much his life has changed. When they finish talking, they decide to go out together again and share another meal. Later that night, they lie down together, resting side by side. While sleeping, Yunho suddenly dreams about the future, where she sees Seol dying. When she wakes up, she tells him something she had never fully explained before. The very first time she met him, 19 years ago, she had already seen the future of both him and his friend Wuok. But now, she says she is no longer worried about the future she once saw. Instead, she wants to focus only on the present, on their love, and on the life they are sharing together. Later, they are shown traveling together on a trip. Yunho happily tells him that she plans to build a large house by the sea where they can live together. She smiles and says, "Tell me everything you want in that house, and I'll make it happen." Seol gently replies that the only thing that truly matters is having her there with him. The two of them walk along the seashore, talking peacefully. Yunho explains that since she is now a 9-tailed fox, she has many powers and has already planned everything for their future. And with that beautiful moment, the two of them walking together by the sea, sharing their love and dreams, the story of the series comes to a warm and emotional end.